Okay, so it's recording now. So just for posterity, this is going to be a test of the structured version of the Netrunning rules in Shadow of the Beanstalk. I'm here with Brian, who's going to be our Netrunner. I wanted to do a few notes and disclaimers before we start. This is the structured Netrunning, which is meant to be used sparingly. There is a simplified system that you can use when the rest of the party is doing something else, so you don't spend half an hour with the Netrunner while the rest of the party waits. There is a streamlined, simplified system that can run parallel to the regular combat. So that's well illustrated in the FFG demo video for Shadow of the Beanstalk, which, if you go on their feed, it should be there. It's their Shadow of the Beanstalk one-shot. Let's see what else. I just read the section once. I'm not 100% familiar, so there will be mistakes made. This is a learning video, so I'm more familiar with Star Wars than with Genesis, so, expect mistakes. What else? I never played Android Netrunner, which shouldn't affect anything, but just wanted to mention that. We'll be using the Star Wars dice roller for ease of visualization. So, because there's no equivalent for the Genesis dice as far as I'm concerned. There's the individual rollers, but this way we can see the actual die rolls like on the screen at all times. And this is our first time using the Roll20 interface for this together, so hopefully it'll work out fine. We took a bunch of cards, network cards made by the user who goes by the name of Drainsmith on the FFG forums. I did make one card myself, which I just hacked his cards, and I made a backdoor card. So anything else, it's pretty much Drainsmith is the man on the graphics. So I think that's it for my disclaimers. We should do the little speech that I wrote for the setup. Let me dig it up real quick. So here's the situation for our little playtest of the Netrunning rules. Brian will be playing a runner for a small corporate espionage team. Their target is Helix Pharmacom. It's a small pharmaceutical company laboratory. Your team is about to breach the installation to extract their lead researcher, Dr. Roberto Lieberman. The company has been working on a pharmaceutical compound to prevent bone loss in low-G environments. This is, of course, expected to bring in a lot of money, as there is a large market for use by personnel in the Beanstalk as well as Luna and Mars. Your task as the team's runner is to hack the Helix Pharmacom server. The primary objective is to neutralize the alarm system, which will kick off the extraction, and then provide Netrunner support for the team as requested. They may ask you to open security doors, interact with ventilation system, etc. as needed. The team will contact you on the field as specific tasks become necessary. The secondary objective is to retrieve Dr. Lieberman's research and development notes for his new drug, transcaldronic acid, which is the bone loss prevention medication. And the tertiary objective is to secure any additional research data that may prove profitable in the market. I put up one black destiny point for me, which is a story point in Genesis, and a white one for you, which is serves the same purpose as far as I understand it. And
because it's still just a flipping style mechanic.
Exactly. All right, so it's night. The team is set. They know Dr. Lieberman is working late today at the lab. You are secured someplace, not with the team themselves, so you are stationed outside of the installation. But you are in communication with the team, so you receive a voice message. A lady called Gemini gets in touch with you, and she says, "What's your runner's name again? I forgot."
Serpent's Ghost.
Serpent's Ghost. Serpent's Ghost. This is Gemini. We're in position now to begin the breach. We're reading you loud and clear. Start the run, and as soon as you give us the green light, we'll begin the breaching for the extraction process.
Okay. So so this is going to be a deep dive, no shallow diving then, since I'm secured.
Yeah.
And first action is probably going to have to be to begin to access the system so we can see what it looks like.
Correct. We're not going to bother with initiative because you're just, you're initiating the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And we're not with the entire team, so...
So what does the Helix Pharmacom server look like?
So let's take a look, and let's call it a hard access roll, which is 3 difficulty. It's a small company, but it's more than just your average residential thing, right? They're trying.
We have no prior reconnaissance or anything on this place.
Of the system per se, there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subsystems of interest to you. There are additional smaller subsystems, like for lights and security cameras and stuff like that. So, it's more a question of, there's at least 3. There is a system, a sysop on duty, but, they're not always alert, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not, it doesn't sound like it's too tight. They don't have like a group of sysops who are guarding this place. Okay.
No, this is a minor operation, and they're conducting research into this drug, which is expected to hit big on the market, right? So this is a small company just striking gold, basically, striking oil,
So
somebody else is trying to get ahead of that.
we're coming in to swoop out their legs from underneath them.
Exactly.
So I got 3 purple set up on the dice roller, 1 for my skill, and then 3 for my intellect. Mm-hmm. And we'll go ahead and see what happens here.
Oh, okay. So that's a success. That's pretty cool. You got success and 1 threat. So let's see what we can use that threat on. Disorganized system, add black die to your next computer's check, or online distraction. Add 2 to any non-computer checks. But you're in a deep dive, so you're pretty focused on what you're doing right now. So I guess, maybe they've changed a little bit of the setup on the system. Maybe there's been some reorganizing of the computer ICE and layout of the system, and you weren't expecting that. Maybe they've revamped their security now that they're conscious of the fact, cognizant of the fact that they seem to be striking gold with this thing. So let me go ahead and reveal area. Come on, man. What's going on here? There we go. Let me reveal a little bit more of the system. And there we go. And you should be able to see it. Oh, there's some cards of yours that are down here. Let me just move them up. Do you see
okay.
that?
That's where they went.
Yeah.
Boy,
wow, there's lots of cards here. I'm going to put them all up so you can.
Well, I didn't realize that I was discarding them down to the table.
Yeah, I didn't either. I had it zoomed in, so I wasn't getting a good overview. But there you have your back door. And now, as I understand it, you can have how many? 3 of those active?
If I myself am running defenses, then I can have 3 active defenses running. But you said we weren't gonna.
Yeah, no. Let's have you just do a simple.
So currently, what I'll be, as I'm approaching the. I'm going to move this stuff over here.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I'm running ferry, and let's see where you go. Where do you go? Right there. Battering ram and Crypsis.
Excellent.
So those are the three that I'm actually have loaded up on the spinal modem. Let me get this thing out of the way. Okay. Now ferry, until something comes up, I don't know if there's any sentries yet, so I'm not really worrying about activating ferry yet. I've got to be able to identify the system first. So, I'll let the guys know, they've altered the gates trying to get in. So we're going to have to try and make a second attempt at it.
Say, okay, we'll holding position, awaiting your go command.
So I'm going to add the one setback die. Yeah, I'm going to hold on that. Okay. All right, so I got a triumph and 2 successes.
Oh, nice. And this is what kind of action are you attempting here?
This is just the access system.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so this is just, once the runner has a direct link to the system, they need to actually access the system. This action represents establishing a way into the system, giving them some measure of control so that they can attempt to fully control it later.
Okay. So I believe this gets you into the blue bar, which says Helix Pharmacom. You're basically inside, and all the little blue lines that you see running down is the actual ice preventing the subsystems. So you see what the ice is guarding. You can see the security cameras. There's the lighting controls, security doors, camera footage, and storage. If you zoom it to like 100%, you can see what it is. But play with the zoom, and that'll make it easier or harder to read. There is one piece of high secure data behind a single block of ice. And there's another area of high secure data behind 2 pieces of ice. So, that probably means something.
Well,
so with that triumph, with the successes, you gain access to the server per se. And that triumph you can leverage to do a couple of things. You can... let's see. Okay, you can install a permanent backdoor in case you get booted out of the system. Or you can do a scouting ahead, so you can learn the details of one piece of ice. Look at it before you actually go, because the way the game is set up, the piece of ice gets revealed once you decide to interact with it, right? So as an incidental, you attempt access, which is it's the equivalent of a move, right? You would move from the main server, the Helix Pharmacom, and go down one of the blue lines, right? You're accessing one of the subsystems, and that's when you encounter the ice.
Okay. Well, to get the team in, it's definitely going to have to be the center one here, because I can see that just from scouting security doors, we've got archival footage, storage, deep archived camera footage storage. So probably disrupting is going to be the first direction I'm going to go within the system.
Okay, so if you were planning going down the main one, the one that has the 3 subsystems?
3 ports. Yeah,
okay,
3 subsystems, because I need to get them into the building.
Okay.
And
do you want to use that triumph to take a peek at the ice before you actually encounter it? Or do you just want to go for it? You could also install a backdoor. Let's see.
There's no... Well, I see security camera. Oh, security doors. So yeah, that's the whole thing.
You see, the cameras are in one place, and then the storage, the 24-hour storage, footage storage is in a different one. So it's forcing you to choose.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the center one. I mean, if the camera's recording anything, it isn't going to matter if they don't have any place where it can go to.
Yeah. So what do you want to use that triumph for? Because you still have it. You can install a backdoor. You can scout ahead and see the piece of ice before you attempt to interact
Let's scout
with
the
it.
ice.
You want to scout the ice.
Yeah, because that way I can figure out which countermeasure I need to, which breaker I need to go at it with.
Okay, so we're gonna flip the middle card here, and you can take a look. And that's the piece of ice that's guarding that system. It's a great wall, which allows you to hide up to 3, to protect up to 3 subsystems. So that's why.
Yeah. So we're gonna brute force it with the battering ram.
That's how you do it. All right. So that was the first, round, quote unquote, right? You just enter the system and use your triumph to scout ahead. So now you know what's going on. You technically have a maneuver, so you could activate a program. If you don't have it active, you should activate it. Now you do have, with the advantage of your rig, we're assuming that you have all 3 pieces of ice active when you start the run. But if you want to change those and boot up a different piece of icebreaker, then you have to spend a maneuver to activate.
Well, these unfortunately were the only 3 I could afford. So
nice.
That's what I got to run with.
Excellent. All right. So the next round would be you doing an incidental action, which would be to attempt access, in which you move into the subsystem. As you move into the subsystem, then you encounter the ice, and you have to be prepared to execute a break ice action. Otherwise, you cannot enter the subsystems if you're not ready to face the ice. You have to face it immediately. So it's a barrier ice. It's a string of 6, so it's pretty strong. And you do have a battering ram, which is also a string of 6. So break ice is an average difficulty maneuver, so it's 2 purple for difficulty. And let's make it interesting. Let's flip that story point and upgrade one of those purple to a red. Just to start this off with a bang.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 1 purple, 1 red, 1 yellow, 3 green.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 1 black from your first action that you had. Oh no, wait, no, never mind.
Yeah, we passed that action.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna stick with what I got right now. I'm not gonna spend any points. I'm just gonna see what happens here.
Cool.
Okay, you gonna roll for me? Oh. 1, 2, 3.
You usually have to hit reset, so it erases all the previous rolls, and then you can put in the new ones, because otherwise sometimes it just...
So the challenge, the difficulty, the proficiency, and 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna roll? Should not want to roll for me.
That's weird. Sometimes it gets... Oh, there we go. I think you got it. Yeah, it just maybe refresh the little window. Sometimes it craps out and does. Okay, so excellent. So it looks like you missed all of them. So
yeah, no, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Just use the first one or use whichever one.
Let's go with the first one. So the first one is
that was the first one we rolled.
A failure and 3 advantages. Is that correct?
Yeah, first one's a failure and 3 advantages.
Yeah, all right. So if you fail to break the ice, I think you're just...
Yeah, barrier.
You're unable to access the subsystem, and so you just basically bounce back, right? But you do get 3 advantages.
So what I'm looking at is 3 advantage. but yeah, there's okay. So I just get bounced back. There's no trace.
There's no trace, nothing.
Action.
No,
okay.
No.
So what I'll do is I will.
With those 3 advantages, you can again
just go ahead. Can I just bounce all 3 onto boost dice?
Sure. I don't know if you can do 3 boost dice in a single action.
Okay.
Like give yourself like 3 boost dice. I don't think you can. You can give yourself 1.
Yeah, I'll definitely at least give myself 1.
That's a good question. Yeah, if you can add 3 to yourself, that would be pretty awesome. I don't think you can. I think you can give yourself 1. And then you could, use the other 2 to cover your tracks and add a black die to the sysop's next trace, if that's something that you're interested in doing. Do you see the little table with the possible?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, just in case if I manage to break through and I do get detected, hold
that black die in reserve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So hold that reserve for there. Yeah. So the 3 ability, 1 skill, 1 boost, and the action is 2 difficulty, right?
Yeah. And now it's just 2 plain difficulty because I can't upgrade you again.
Okay. Just to make it interesting, I'm going to go ahead and flip 1 there and go ahead and increase, just because we need to get this thing done. We need to get inside.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've upgraded 2 and 2, 1 and 2 difficulty.
There we go. Now we get a triumph.
Nice. A triumph, a success, and an advantage.
Okay. With this success, the break is then worth 7 damage, right, to the ice, and the ice is 6. So this knocks the ice down. Now the ice will be inactive for 1 round, so until the end of your next turn, unless you use some of that advantages or the triumph to completely disable the ice. If that's something that you're interested in, you don't really need to do that. You have a couple of rounds to do whatever it is that you want to do. But those are options, because if you don't permanently disable the ice, it flips back up.
Yeah.
Right? So
well, my objective for coming down this route is to first open the doors so they can get in. The second objective is to
look around the system for the notes, right?
What I basically want to do is I want to have the
so here's the
24-hour camera, the recording storage. I want to take that offline.
Okay, so that takes a maneuver to do that, right? To interact.
These are my objectives.
Those are the enact command maneuvers. So you have 2 maneuvers per round, right? So you've only let's see, did you attempt access? That's an incidental, is the attempt access. And then you did the action, which was breaking the ice. So you have up to 2 maneuvers, right? The first one is free. The second one is you need to spend strain. Unless, you went deep. So you got 2 free maneuvers, basically. Yeah. Okay. So you're knocking out...
I'm not running shallow.
So you're knocking out the 24-hour camera footage storage. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the one I basically just want to completely knock that offline.
Okay. And disabling the security doors is the other one that you're doing, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so let's
tap really, those. If they can't store the footage, it doesn't matter knocking out the cameras.
Correct. Sure. So that's pretty much done.
Okay. So now with the triumph that I have from this action or from that that roll, can I go ahead and permanently install a backdoor here just in case the sysop brings this stuff back online?
Yes, sir. You can certainly do that.
So I'll backdoor the Great Wall.
No, I think you backdoor the system itself is how it works, the server. So you know how you had to roll a difficulty 3 to get inside originally? Yeah, if you're booted out completely, you can try and come back in, and now it's only a difficulty 1 to access the system. So I'm going to put I put the card over here to signify that you have that permanent backdoor, right?
Okay.
Because the sysop at some point can come in and knock it out. So if they see it. All right.
All right. So now that the system doors are unlocked, they can't save their recorded footage. I'll go ahead and give the green light for them to proceed inside the building.
Excellent. So they say, Gemini here, breach will commencing now. And they start with that. So for the next round, I'm going to... not the next round, my turn, because I'm going to take a turn here. I'm going to flip that destiny point and say that you knocking out that piece of ice, alerts the sysop that something is wrong, and he doesn't know. The sysop is not sure if this is, maybe this is some sort of glitch in the system. So he's going to perform a sweep. And see if he can find because something may be going on. Run some diagnostics on this system. So, sweep is a sysop action, which is hard, so it's difficulty 3. If successful, the sysop becomes aware of a runner in their system. Okay, so he doesn't really know there's a runner now. He notices something. Something is wrong with the code. So. They're going to try and detect you. Let me take a look here at this sysop, and it's 2, and let's do 2 on 1. No, 3 dice plus 1. Let's make it interesting. Let's make it plus 2. Yeah. No, let's leave it.
And don't forget your setback for cover tracks.
Ooh, that's right. So the sysop notices something is wrong, and they're going to try and sweep the system. But that's a success. So now the sysop is aware that there is a netrunner in their system. There are, however, 3 threat in there. So there's a couple of things that you can do with that threat. So let's see. Let's take a look at the little chart, which again, Drainsmith just copied the chart into this little handout. So I just printed it out. I don't know if you did, but
I'm just looking right in the book right now.
Okay, so look at this. He did this little chart. It's in his files, and it has all the actions here. And he has the difficulty for logging in, and he has the little spending threat advantage and whatnot on the other side. So that's a pretty good thing to print out.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a couple of options there to spend those 3. Let's see. And I think you look at the ones that say sysop only, permanent backdoor. Oh, no, you already have a backdoor. Reduce the strength of 1 active ice by 1 to a minimum of 1.
Do I have to actually see the ice, though?
That's a good question.
I couldn't, as far as I mean, just as a, I'd have to probably be aware of what it is. I couldn't just blindly damage a countermeasure, I would think.
Yeah, well, it's ill-defined in the way they describe it, so they call it careless protocol. So maybe it's that this particular piece of ice, whatever it is, you can designate it, is sloppy in their design, right?
Yeah.
And you can just say, I'll nominate this piece of ice to be the sloppy one. So I guess you can.
Yeah, it just says runner's choice.
Yeah.
We'll say the first ice in the series of 2 for the high secure data area.
Okay, so we'll say that one is at -1 strength. Got it. Okay. So let's see. Okay, you have one leftover threat that you can capitalize on. So you can give me a...
Give him I'll add an online distraction to him. He's too busy, focusing on his online MMO to actually be paying attention to the system at this hour of the night.
Yeah, so that sounds excellent. Now, the way I read it is that if it's a non-computer check, it's 2 black die. But if it's a computer check, it's a single black die, which is fine we'll call it that he's distracted, by something else going on. So his next action is going to be impeded to a degree. Let's see. So I'm going to say that he notices that the ice... The Great Wall ice has been deactivated, so he's gonna spend a maneuver and reactivate that piece of ice, which is fine because I believe you just go out immediately. It's not like you're trapped behind the ice, right? It's just that you bounce out again of the system. So that's his action and anything else. So it's back to you next round. So it's back to you.
Okay. Before I move to what looks to be the high secure data area, I'm going to go over the comm link and say, is this a dark entry? Do we need illumination? Is this a dark entry?
It's, Ghost Serpent, Gemini here. Don't worry about it. We have thermal night vision gear. We're proceeding at pace right now. Go and find those notes.
Okay. So then I'll proceed to the first block of ice on the high secure data area.
Excellent. So it's an incidental. It's an incidental to move to the subsystem.
Yep.
And you have your active ice already. So let's take a look at what ice you encounter right now. Oh, wait a minute. Where do I flip this card? Flip card. There we go. And it is a firewall.
Brute force it.
All right. So yeah. So
1, 2, 3. Actually, we're gonna flip one. So 2.
Again, breaking ice is 2 purple.
Yeah, 2 purple. And I've already used up my other boost that I had, I believe. So against the 2 purple, I feel comfortable with that. Okay. Whoa, okay. That just smashed that wall down.
Yeah. And you do have a single advantage.
The advantage is just in case, since I know he's not as distracted as I think. So I'm going to go ahead and continue covering tracks.
Oh, that's excellent. So covering tracks does...
That's going to add that setback die if you try and do...
Oh, wait. You don't have enough advantage to that.
I see. Yeah, that's one advantage. Oh, crap.
What you could do is, you can photo override the ice, so it cannot be reactivated for 1 additional round.
Yeah, let's override it.
Okay. So,
just thoroughly override it.
So it's out for, until the end of your next turn and the turn after that. So we got 2... this would be a good place to throw in some marker that says 2. That's not a bad... I think I got.
Yeah, because there's got to be, if you're gonna, once you can get this down, having the tools to be able to let you know, this is a -1, like maybe have a couple of -1 tokens or a -1, -2 token to subtract from the ice, maybe. That way you can drop it on a card.
Yeah.
And then maybe a +1R or +2R for how many rounds something may be affected.
Yeah. Let's go with this little 2 marker
pretty
here.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you
All
go.
right.
That worked.
Yeah. No, but now I know I got to make more. So
At least it's not a lot of stuff they have to keep track of, though. I mean,
no, it's not too much, and that's what I like. It's kind of simple and contained. So that is your advantage and your success. So that was your incidental to move there, and that was your action to break the ice. You still have 2 maneuvers. Let's see what you can do with those maneuvers. You can enact command. No, you can't.
no.
Activate or reactivate ice or icebreakers if you want to bring any more online, but in this case you already have your ice, because if you're running with the crappy gear, you're running with like 1 active piece of ice, so it's like, oh, you gotta stop
the pad is like horrible.
You gotta put in a new one and take it off and put it on again. So
a lot of hot swapping of your applications, but I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's so much more you can kind of go into as far as like applications that you would want to do. But yeah, just enact command, activate program, and that's about it.
Yeah. So no maneuvers. It looks like you're doing this turn. So it's back to the sysop. Yep. Now the sysop is aware that there is a runner. So they're going to try and initiate a trace. So now we're going to do an opposed sysops versus hacking check. So, yeah. So what's your hacking?
I've got 3 on my intellect and 1 on my proficiency.
So it's
3 green and 1 yellow.
So it's 2 green and 1 yellow. It's 3 and 1?
Yeah, 3 and 1.
Okay.
3 green, intellect 3, and proficiency 1.
Yeah, so what it does is you start with the 3 green dice and you upgrade one of those 2. So it's 2 greens and 1 yellow. Correct?
No, I mean, I actually have.
Let me double check. So
1 rank, the actual hacking ability.
Okay, so the way this works, or at least it does in Star Wars, and
it probably works the same here.
You look at your ability score and you compare it to the ranks in the skill.
Oh, okay. So I have to choose to upgrade it.
Whichever is the largest number is the original pool of green dice. So 3 intellect is a pool of green dice. 3 green dice. And then the smaller number, in this case a 1 skill rank, just upgrades one of the dice and turns it yellow. So it's 1 yellow and 2 green. That's how that works. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's cool, because that's exactly what the sysop has. So I will be rolling that as difficulty. But you gave him a setback die because he was distracted with his MMO. So he's running 2 greens, 1 yellow against 2 purples, 1 red, and 1 black dice. Now the question is, do I want to spend that destiny to upgrade? You know what? I'm feeling like I want to take it easy, because we don't want this run to end too quickly. So let's see what happens here.
Why not? See what happens.
See what happens? Flip it? Well, if I flip it, you can flip 1 back and make it even more catastrophic. So let's go. Let's upgrade another yellow. Do you want to spend another one of your points?
Let's go ahead and keep up the ante. Yeah.
So now it's 2 yellows, 1 green versus 2 reds and 1 purple and 1 black die. So here we go. Okay, so he fails. He actually cannot trace you.
Okay.
And further, he gets 3 more disadvantage. 3 threat, I should say. So let's see what you can do with that. You got your backdoor already. Let's see. 2 would give you reduce the strength of 1 active ice to a minimum of 1. That's probably useful for the next piece of ice. You might want to do that.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So okay, well let me put one of those green markers here then.
Cool, nice.
Oops, hang on. What did I do? There we go.
Alt-tabbing too fast between his screens.
So, okay, so that takes care of the 2 threats. So you have 1 extra leftover threat. So I guess give him a black die for whatever it is he's doing next.
Retain 1 for a setback.
Yeah, so I think you're trying to cover your tracks. You're laying in a couple of different accesses, right? So it looks like more people are logging in than just you. So that's throwing off his trace completely. He's chasing different logged in users in the system, which suddenly there's 3 guys. Yeah, he's getting spoofed. Suddenly there's like 3 guys. And wait a minute, it was 1 guy in the system. There's 3 now. So it's back to you. It's your turn.
Proceed on to the next dice.
Yes. All right. So
okay. So
let's flip the card here. And you are encountering a piece of Enigma. But the good news is it's now a code gate too, because it's it's messy code. This sysup guy, he plays way too much World of Warcraft. He's not good at he's way too distracted. This code should be tighter, and it's not.
So this is where I'm going to pull in Crypsis.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's good, it's a code gate. After a runner uses Crypsis to break the ice, they may spend a maneuver. If they do not, Crypsis becomes damaged 1 step.
Okay, breaks a piece of ice, they must spend a maneuver. If they do not, Crypsis becomes damaged 1 step. Okay, so it's not too bad. But look at Enigma, because Enigma has detail on it. If you attempt to break the ice and fail, and you lose access to the entire system, so you get booted out completely.
Yeah.
And you have to start over from scratch. Before breaking Enigma, the runner must spend a maneuver studying it. Okay?
Yep.
So 1 maneuver goes to study it, and if you use Crypsis, that's going to be a 2nd maneuver, correct?
Well, they're all active right now.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I don't have to call up another one.
No, I'm saying, but wait, but Crypsis requires you to spend a maneuver?
Well, that's an inactive command, right?
Yeah, but the Crypsis itself, the description says after a runner uses Crypsis to break a piece of ice, they must spend a maneuver.
If I fail to break it, then I lose. It drops its power by 1.
Yeah, but it reads like you need to spend a maneuver to use Crypsis. Is that let me read the actual text.
So after a runner uses Crypsis to break a piece of ice, they must spend a maneuver. Yeah. So if after I use this, I will be using up my maneuver. Yeah. So I have to spend a maneuver to study Enigma, figure out the logic puzzle, activate Crypsis, and then hopefully if it's successful, it doesn't lose power. But then I also have to use my last maneuver to maintain Crypsis's code itself.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So, and there's a hard limit to 2 maneuvers per round. So all that it means is it's going to delay you before you get to the actual encoded data, which is fantastic.
Right.
I think that's great. All right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the good thing is that it's Enigma's reduced by 1. Hopefully, I can just burn this thing out.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean, not burn it out literally, but
yeah,
just get it out of my way.
Knock it out.
9, 2, 3. I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm not gonna flip.
Okay, so it's a 3. Hang on, the difficulty is 2 as usual. But since you're in a high stress situation, I'm gonna split my story point and turn one of those things red. So it's 1 red and 1 purple to knock out Enigma. Because that sysup could be around the corner, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, could be. All right, I'm going to go ahead and flip.
Okay.
All right, let's see what we got.
Yes, that is
1 threat. Okay.
Awesome roll.
Successful but threatened.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 3 plus 3 is 6. And it was only a 2. So you absolutely break it. You spend your requisite maneuvers to, stabilize the ice.
Yeah, stabilize Crypsis.
And you do have threat. So let's see what we can do with that threat. Disorganized system. So I'm gonna use that threat to to, you're too busy. You're trying to do a lot of things. You got the firewall, and it's going to come up. Let me change the marker here. It's going to come up in the next round. It's going to come back up. The sys-up is around the corner. So you're a little bit distracted with all the things that you have to do right now. And and so it's going to be a black die to your next computers check, to your next hacking check. And it's back to the sys-up now. So the sys-up, it's getting a little bit desperate. He knows you're in there. So he wants to do another trace. He has no penalties in this round. And hey, I got me some story point, so I'm going to flip it. Do you want to flip one back at me?
Yeah. Because I need to stay safe. While I'm under pressure here, I need to remain safe.
That's right.
Trying to maintain Cryptus' code as I'm making my way down the beam towards the secure data system.
So here we go. Ooh, a success. And a threat.
And he got a threat.
Okay, but that's excellent. So with a successful trace,
give it a take. Yeah.
He actually. Okay, let me.
That's going to be a trace on me, I'm sure.
And that is going to be a trace on you. Let me see if I can. Hang on. Let me zoom out a little bit and do a reveal area just so you can see what I did in this little corner here. There, look at the upper corner of the. So I had that set
That's why I couldn't see them while ago. They were hidden. Okay.
That's exactly it.
Gotcha.
So let me copy this. And I set it up really nice too, but I got it. Hang on. Copy. Paste. So I actually had it up where you could superimpose it one on the other one, but it's Roll20 snaps to grid. I could get rid of the grid, but the grid looks cool. So it's I'm having design difficulties. But what I can do is put it right on the side here like that. And so now you know that the sys-up is learning, what current country you're currently in. So he knows you're in the same country right now. And this will reduce the difficulty of the lockout action. So he can attempt to lock you out.
Okay.
Let's see. And he took a threat. So if he takes a threat, you can add some distraction to him.
Yeah, I'm going to keep up with the setback on him. That's got to somehow keep him on his. He's like stepping forward, stepping back, stepping forward, stepping back. So I got to keep having him do the tango.
Yep. All right. So we're back to you.
Okay. So I'm going to pull this data.
So you enact command and you uncover the security data, and you rifle through it in a hurry because you want to make sure you find the notes.
Do an auto sort.
But to your surprise, the Dr. Lieberman's notes are not in this folder.
Of course.
Well, of course not. And what you uncover in this folder is the fact that Helix Pharmacom is actually involved in the production of the illegal street drug named Blink. So, it seems they have a side job producing illegal pharmaceuticals for the street. It's a small company, right? It's trying to claw. It's gonna claw its way up to the top, right? So, but still, that's a very interesting piece of data because you can turn that into profit. So not all is wasted.
For sure. So that goes into the rig behind my personal Enigma wall.
Exactly.
My Enigma gate.
So you retrieve that data, and that is a maneuver. So you can actually take you can keep moving and do more actions in this round, right? Because an act command is just a maneuver.
Yeah.
So you can move elsewhere in the system, and
there's got to be, So the only way for me to kind of really prevent him from him continuing down that track is to really keep putting him on setback.
Yeah.
Well, I finding not exactly what we're looking for here. I give them an update. I say, apparently the high security area was a decoy. Nothing of value found here yet. So I'm moving on to the next system.
Proceed. We've breached the security guards station and neutralized the security guards. We're now moving deeper into the lab to secure the main target.
Okay. So I'll move over to the ice right next to this one, which the less secure system.
The less secure, high security
and
data.
I thought you were going to say there was another hidden ice underneath all that crap, and I was like, oh, that's great. Way to go.
I try to stick to the guidelines for the basic run, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a starting character. I am doing the I'm big on trying the recommendations for the beginning things. Then we can start exploring like in the future, right?
Okay.
Like you mentioned, at some point they might backtrace you to your own rig and try to hack your rig, which is pretty cool too. I'm thinking maybe doing this same setup, but then putting a red bar on top and then calling it, Super Ghost's rig, and do the same thing where you can set up your own custom
system behind it.
System behind it, yeah.
Okay, so move out.
So incidental gets you out. No, incidental actually gets you out. Yeah, and you don't need to spend a maneuver. You just move in. Yeah. And then if you're gonna break the ice right now, that requires the break ice action, right? So which you have, you can do right now. So we're gonna flip this card, and it's a humble and simple authenticator. Note that this is a card which has a mistake on it. That authenticator is actually strength 3. So I'm gonna have
4?
to. It's strength 3.
3. Okay.
Let me double check on the little.
Okay.
On the official game book, but I do believe I checked it earlier. Yes, authenticator is strength 3, page 136.
Okay. So my only option is to use Crypsis. I don't have another type of ICD to get past code gates, so I have to spend another maneuver to.
Okay, exactly. No, you use one maneuver to
that
do
was
the
for
thing.
Enigma Gate.
Yeah, and you're going to need to spend one maneuver for Crypsis.
Yeah.
You're just not going to have enough maneuvers to access the data on this round, so you're going to have to wait for the next one. All right. So cool. let's go for that.
It's a 3. Crypsis is a 3.
It's a 3 strength. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and flip.
All right. So, you know what? I'm not going to flip against you. So, again.
And that was a 2. This is the break ice is a 2, right?
This is a 2 purple, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's 4. That just knocks it out, right? Plain and simple. And you spend your maneuver, and you do get a threat. Let's see, what can I do with that threat?
So how about so I got stymied here trying to break the authenticator. So how about a boost die for the sysop as I've had to hustle from one location to another.
Yeah, that sounds
so
good.
He gets a boost because I've kind of like had to switch gears.
So he's already got a setback from your previous action. He's got a boost now for this, and I think he's going to try and trace you again. So that's on a post roll. So you got 2 purples and a red. And of course, I'm going to flip a story point at this place, and you cannot flip that destiny point back at me.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can trace you. Whoa, look at that. But it's fine. It's cool. It's just a
yeah. He's just zeroing in on my location. That's fine. When he finds out I'm right across the street, everything will be okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Like Antoine says, it'll be fine. Let me just read it here. Just to make sure everything. Okay, cool. So, yes.
And that's blasting with success. Jesus.
Yeah. So let's move this trace marker here and place it here. So now he knows what state, province, or region. He's suspecting that you're like real nearby. And that reduces the action of the lockout system. So now the lockout action is down to 2 difficulty, so it's not that hard for him. He could actually attempt it.
Yep.
So, but that's his action for this turn. So I believe your action ended. So the firewall becomes active again.
Yep.
And Enigma, did you disable it? I'm gonna have to do some tokens to disable this. You think you might have disabled Enigma? I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. I doubt that you're going back, but
yeah, I'm not going to be going back down that system hole.
Yeah. So it is actually your turn to proceed.
Okay, so I'll go over the comms and say what's ETA till departure.
It says, we've secured Lieberman. We're setting demolition charges, but we'll be out of this place in 2 minutes.
Okay. So, and so far, it doesn't sound like they haven't said anything about encountering gunfire. There's been no aggressive actions made in defense. So I'm just going to grab the data.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's just a maneuver.
Yeah.
And
I am going to So I see this system. I've learned about 3/4 of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I want to do now is an attempt to, I don't know if I really want to go that far. It's just one step. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to grab the data and
oops, say again. You broke there at the end.
I'm just going to grab the data and then depart.
Log out. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Exit the system.
Yeah. So that sounds like just another, maneuver to grab the data, and then it should be an incidental to move back to the starting place, and maybe another maneuver to cut the connection. So I think you log out successfully, right? I don't think there's any more checks to be done at this point.
Yeah, at that point, once you get past the server's main system, especially since now that I have that back door there, I could easily get out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's no real role to log out.
Yeah.
So Gemini comes in and says target secured, charges in place, blowing the place now, and extracting. Get out of the system if you haven't already. And she asked, do you get the data? And,
waiting for the fireworks.
Yeah, and indeed, that last piece of secure data is Dr. Lieberman's notes. So,
okay.
So that's it, man. That's a little taste of the Netrunning system. So it's a little. Yeah.
I like how it's a bit randomized because you still have to make a roll, but then it's like a karmic comparison. So add plus karma. Mm-hmm. Compare the two numbers. Here's the ice I'm using. Here's the ICB I'm using. It's just so much.
Yeah, you could. It seems to be. Some sections are an abstracted form of combat, right? Like these could be like stormtroopers in regular Star Wars, right? So you could, for example, make some ice that has soak in it, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's room to make more complex ice if you want it. I like the different flavors, but I did try to stick. There's very specific guidelines on page, what is it, 140 for the structured, from the structured run, you know, where it tells you that how to basically configure a basic system, specifying that barrier ice should be strength 6 or less, sentry ice should be strength 4 or less, and code gate ice should be strength 3 or less for the beginning Netrunner. If you have more than one Netrunner, or if you have a single Netrunner with more than 150 XP, then those numbers go up, right? And then you get into the really heavy ice, right? So just for fun, I'd also admonishes you or advises you to use barrier ice for most of the system, right? And it advised me to put just a single piece of double ice, right? So, you know, I whipped up this this little that's not good. Did I delete?
Did you delete something?
I think there we go. Oh, there it is. Flip card. There we go. So just so you see what's in the other routes that you did not take, I had a hawk's eye, thinking that you were going to go for the security cameras instead of the storage. So that was my one piece of sentry ice. So I figured if he goes for the camera, then the ice on the camera still looks at you, right? It's a sentry ice. Yeah. And then I just went with a regular wall, you know, a regular barrier ice for the lighting and the rest of the systems. So, you know, this is designed within the parameters recommended by the game for a starting thing, which is pretty...
it's very straightforward.
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
So, I was on the FFG forums where Drainsmith, you know, has this stuff posted up. We were talking about, you know, the idea to be able to keep a larger complex system fairly small on a map like this. We were talking about, okay, so you're going into a building. Obviously, you would want to have security cameras behind some form of ice, but would you necessarily, like, you could have like building systems. So on a you're getting into the building systems server. So in that server, which is protected by your ice wall, would be lighting, fire suppression, HVAC, you know, environmental controls.
That makes sense.
Just general stuff. So that way you don't have like, you know, several different arms that have to protect, you know, a bunch of different random systems.
Right.
You know, this way you lay down a card which would say like building systems, and on it would be, you know,
lights, fire suppression, whatever it is.
The idea of having the security drawers and the, you know, these three on the separate's a great idea. You know, there's just some way that you could use the cards, and even if it's a big advanced system, that you aren't having to build this complex map. Like, say, for more advanced runners, maybe it has one arm or two arms that can go 3 deep, but then most of them are only 1s and 2s.
Yeah, I suppose that once you get into like the 150 point experience point or multiple game Netrunners in a game, then the rules go off, right? So you can have multiple areas with double ice. You could have more subsystems because you want the Netrunners to split up, right? To do a couple of things. You could have multiple sysops. So, you know, putting complexity in it, it would depend on the number of players interested in the subsystem, I should think.
Have you kind of looked over the mob rules for net running? So like if you're running in a group, all it takes is one character or one NPC or PC in the mob to take control of a system, and then the other characters in that mob can maneuver in after they've opened it up to take control of certain systems. So like say I break the barrier ice on a building systems node, and there's two other guys in the group. Well, one guy can go in and through. I take control of lighting, and the other guy takes control of fire suppression.
It makes perfect sense because the move is incidental, right? So they could just blaze through. The only thing that's stopping the move is the ice, because this is not a physical move, right? It's the only thing that's stopping you is there's a barrier in there. But if somebody opens it, then everyone can go through, which is fantastic. The only notes here that we have is if there's more than one Netrunner, the ice should be a more even mix of barriers and code gates. If a subsection is protected by multiple pieces of ice, then one should be a sentry and one of the others should be a barrier or a code gate.
Yeah, because the barriers and code gates are more like to just either keep you out or shunt you out.
Yeah.
And whereas the sentries are the ones that are actually going to do the damage to you.
Yeah, and then it says you can use sentries of any strength. Multiple subsections can be protected by 2 pieces of ice. And at least one subsection can be protected by 3 pieces. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you will say your main building power supply.
Yeah.
Utilities, like main power utilities for a star scraper.
Or the super secret, illegal street data, right? So...
the latest Nessie clone DNA genotypes or whatever it may be.
Exactly. And it did mention that Great Wall appears to be the only piece of ice that can hide multiple subsystems. So this is why I guess theoretically you could have looked at it and gone, 3 pieces of subsystem hidden by this must be a Great Wall, right? And I guess that's part of the fun of the game, right? As you learn it, you're like, aha, I'm an experienced Netrunner. I know what that is. So,
well, like, let's see.
And you could have like a code gate and then the ice protecting the 3 subsystems, right? So it would be, it's pretty cool.
See, so like, for example, a good thing that you could, just thinking about barriers for a second. And so I just finished watching Border Number 3 for Awaken, which is like the pre-Ghost in the Shell. It's about the Major before she actually becomes part of Section 9. So in it, on one of the missions that her group is doing, they encounter a barrier maze where she gets trapped in the net as she's, I guess you could technically qualify it as riding shallow on her bike. And she's trying to trail someone, but she gets caught in a barrier maze. So you could make say, okay, barrier maze is it instead of preventing someone from leaving, what it actually does is it traps them at their location, in the system, so that it makes the trace attempt or it gives a bonus to sweep attempt. So for locating like a fly trap, fly paper or whatever you want to call it. Or barrier maze could try and prevent you from exiting so that sentry ice can get to you in the system.
That makes sense. That's actually a pretty good idea. You could, have them locked in behind a gate, because they lock you out, but maybe they could lock you in, right? And now you have to break the ice to get out again.
To disconnect from the system. I mean, because you're in a deep dive. You have to be able to turn off your BMI.
Yeah.
So they're essentially blocking that code signal. I mean, you see this happen a couple of times in Ghost in the Shell with the back hacks and things like that. So, and that's one of the things that I haven't seen come up yet is people talking about, well, what are we going to do when somebody wants to start hacking somebody's cyber eyes and, going through, which is where you would probably want to use that more simplistic hacking method.
Yeah, probably.
More or less.
Unless there's a runner and you could have like the guy hacking the eyes and the runner defending the partner. I mean, there's lots of places to take this. It's I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with like the visual stuff, but this merits it because it's not a tactical map. It's an overview map of what's going on, and it guides your decision because this is too much information to hold in your mind. You know, the system.
What was on branch 3 again?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if somebody go, what was on branch 3 again?
Yeah, you'd have to be drawing it, and it wouldn't work. So, you know. I was going to say something. Okay, there's something that the rules did not address, which I decided to assume. I assumed that when you logged in, the sysop is not looking, right? So I'm assuming that the sysop is distracted doing something else. And anytime somebody logs into the system, they're not going to be looking at every user who logs into the system, right? So I figured there needs to be some sort of trigger for when they start sweeping. Right? So I decided to either wait for you to mess up with some sort of despair, or if a sentry, one of the pieces of sentry ice gets triggered, that goes running and alerts a sysop. And the third method I assumed is I'll just flip a story point to say that the sysop becomes active, right? But it doesn't really address that. So I guess it's one of those things where you can fill in the blank, whatever you feel is appropriate.
I that's kind of how I imagine it, is until you
do something to trigger.
Yeah, until you do something to trigger attention, because otherwise you're just.
Because otherwise, every piece of ice would be a sentry, right? Because if you knock the barrier and that alerts the guy, so I figured,
that's a perfect barrier there too. Like, so most of the barriers say if a character attempts to break this ice and fails, they are unable to access the subsystem. Mm-hmm. That's for firewall. So there's nothing that doesn't say that. So like mirror wall. Let's say the ice is called mirror wall. Mm-hmm. And a character who fails to break this ice is unable to access the system, and a trace is automatically triggered, and that that is the target is reduced by 1. Yeah. It's purpose built to say, okay, here's this wall of glass. If you attempt to break it and fail, it's going to let us know that you're here. It's an active, it's a proactive alert system.
Correct.
So just like the security alarms for, trying to get into a physical building, okay, here's, something that's definitely going to let the sysops know, red light flashing on the dashboard.
Exactly.
You've had somebody attempt to access the subsystem.
Yeah, I think the main way to do it is when you log in, the access role, and if you mess that up, then you can use that to alert the sysop that at least there's something funny going on, which is my interpretation, because then he goes into the sweep action, right? Is there something weird, but I don't know what it is. I have to sweep it until I identify a runner, and then I start tracing.
Yeah.
So, and this is a very basic system, but with lots of rooms to grow. I mean, I managed to get a copy of a used Netrunner game for cheap.
Oh yeah.
There's a local guy. I was like, look on Facebook. Let's just see if they're, because I remember there was a big.
There's like 3 box sets and 2 expansions, man.
But there was a big rush here in Puerto Rico where there was a group of people playing that like every week, and they had tournaments and stuff. And I would see the flashes of it on the Facebook, and I was like, I'm not going. And now I'm like, wait a minute. So I managed to. A guy wanted to get rid of his collection last year, and he posted like in April 2018, and I'm like, dude, it's been a year, but by any chance do you have that box?
You still have it.
And he's like, yes, please buy it. And it's like, yes, let's go. So I got it real cheap.
I mean, for doing like just card research, I found that there are, because of electronic cataloging systems that have been out for a while for like Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I found one.
There are tons of scanned images of just the cards for all the various sets, and that's definitely a place that's probably going to be ripe to go through and pull. Because like I haven't seen any stats for the Wizard and a couple of the other main characters from Netrunner, the card game. And a few of the other. Now, Janus, the application Janus, that was definitely listed as one of the apps in the Netrunner card game.
Yeah.
But there were a bunch. There were a whole bunch more barriers and sentries and
icebreakers. There's one. Right?
I saw.
I looked through them. There's a couple of catalogs with the cards. So I have the cards, but you can actually look at them online. And I saw a Parasite, which I didn't see statted out as an icebreaker. I saw a couple of extra, so there's definitely a couple of more. I think there was an Odin, how they have like Heimdall.
Yeah, the Heimdall's in there, yeah.
Yeah, but I think they have an Odin as well, so, so they have a couple of other pieces that I guess one could look and draw inspiration to make more ice and icebreakers.
Yeah, because the mechanics are they're card mechanics. But at least you can kind of like look and say, okay, in respect to the system, how Netrunner is played, how valuable is this ice? How strong is this ice compared to a card of similar types?
Yeah,
and that would help you fit it into the scheme for Android. It's not as strong as Janus, so okay, it's not a 6.
Exactly.
It's a 5.
Maybe it's a 5. That's exactly it. Yeah. And
but I think there have been some interesting discussions about just in general about how many ways that the whole system is going to be taken, because like everybody, there's a bunch of people looking for a Mars supplement to come out next.
Yeah,
because that was the one thing we didn't get in this was we got a Looney, but we didn't get a Martian.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it would be, if we're not going to get a Martian in the core book, then can we have, a Martian splat book where we can get more? Because they're supposed to be trying to build a Beanstalk too. So
yeah, no, they have tons of rooms to grow. In the meantime, I guess one could look at have you seen the Eclipse Face books?
I have a few, yeah.
Yeah, and those are free to download on PDF. Yeah. So, there's some description of Mars, which I guess you could substitute in or, sort of draw.
And I've also heard that there's some good, like in the old Buck Rogers game.
Yes.
I think it was you. Yes. They're the lunar base.
Yeah.
There's some great schematics for that stuff, that could be used until something official comes out,
That's true. Yeah. That's what I was very pleasantly surprised. There's this science fiction author named William Keith. He goes by a couple of pseudonyms, and he's been involved with a series of games and stuff. And like he was big into BattleTech. He wrote like the first seminal novels for BattleTech. He wrote those. He was involved in the Buck Rogers. I think he wrote like short stories and some of the consultation of the thing. He's big on hard sci-fi, and he's a novelist on his own. He has independent novels out, which are really, really good. And so that's his thing, like hard sci-fi and gaming. Yeah. And I think he was big into the Buck Rogers thing, and it has the goofy, space rockets. That's the only goofy part. Everything else is like smart
atomic rocket. Yeah.
The first time I heard the concept of a space elevator, this was 1989. I had read Foundation, and that's old sci-fi, right?
Yeah,
that's as far as and Star Trek, of course. Everybody had seen. I was watching Next Generation like everybody else, but this was like 1989. I think that Buck Rogers came out, and it's like space elevators and genetic modification, like the Martians and Buck Rogers are genetically modified humans because Mars is partially terraformed, so they're taller than because the gravity is lower, so they're taller but thinner, and their nostrils are big, their noses are big and wide nostrils to take in the thinner atmosphere. And it'd be like, it'd be like all sort of this thing behind it that, when I read the Eclipse Phase books on it, I'm reminded of that. And of course, Eclipse Phase is transhumanism, so it takes it a step further. But in Eclipse Phase, one of the sleeves is a Martian runner or something, which is a guy equipped to survive in the Martian desert, and he can breathe the atmosphere, and it's like, it's the same concepts, just, translated. So there's at least the Eclipse Phase books are free on PDF. I bought.
I totally forgot about that.
I have a hard copy of a couple of books, not all the books, but I have at least a couple of books, and those are high quality production and very nice for the inspiration too. So that's that's something that one can use. But I think the system is looking good so far. I love the lightness of the dice, right, and the whole flipping story points mechanic. I like the way they did it. It's
well, and I don't necessarily think that it's going to be, because like when we played our Star Wars game was definitely not pulpy.
No, and that's
and I don't think, because that's what I remember Ivan asking, how pulpy do you think Shadow the Beanstalk is? And I'm like, I don't know, you're talking to an old Cyberpunk 2020 player, so I don't think that if I run Beanstalk it's going to be terribly pulpy. Because I like what I did in Star Wars was just to make use of the threat die was I just kept throwing stress. Mm-hmm. You rolled 2 threat, go ahead and take 1 stress. You rolled 2 threat, you go ahead and take 1 stress.
Yeah.
And they were like, man, this is kind of starting to suck. And I'm like, so now you have to choose. Do you want to start reducing that stress when you're rolling those advantages, or do you want to spend those advantages
correct
on the skills and other stuff that you can do? Eventually you're going to get so stressed out, which made them as players start feeling the tension of the game. And that's one of the things I do like about it, is it has this, and maybe that's why they kind of feel pulpy, is that it does have this slow rising tension action in it. It's not get hit, you're dead.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, okay, you're getting a little stressed out. Oh, maybe you took a wound. Okay, getting a little more stressed out. Okay, maybe you get a critical hit. So it's kind of like bits and pieces that both can kind of rise together.
Yeah.
Although
it's skewed, it's skewed to survival, right? Because you're usually knocked out before you're killed, which is great because that just adds complication, right? Maybe you're captured, maybe you're taken prisoner, interrogated, whatever it is. You can break out of prison, you can do tons of stuff to continue the action versus just dying, which is the old school way, which is not necessarily suited to Star Wars. And I think even if you're doing a gritty version of the Beanstalk, still getting captured and getting wounded is much more interesting than just having the guy die, right?
Well, so you suffer the strain threshold and you pass out. Well, are your buddies going to leave you behind?
Exactly.
They're going to have to make the decision to, does this guy owe me a favor? Or do I owe him a favor? Maybe if I don't,
correct.
If I save him, then he's going to owe me big time. That could be part of that favor economy. And it gives you that opportunity to kind of have that kind of interaction. But I know you said you weren't too much into the cybernetics, but that was an interesting way to kind of form that dependence on grit. Mm-hmm. Since grit will raise your threshold. And then there is being a cyborg, you as an out of turn incidental, you can heal 1 stress per cybernetic that you have. So it kind of becomes this cycle of, okay, I get I get cyberized to start. Then I get my next one. I'm down 1 because you don't lose 1 for the first one. So my threshold or my strain threshold goes down by 1. Okay, so like for her right now as a cyborg, her strain is at 10. So if I take another one, which I probably will, I'll probably take like subdermal armor just in case. That'll drop it to 9. And then depending on how much further you want to go and how much further you want to go, because like there's no real like Johnny Mnemonic data storage. They don't talk about like how much data you can store or if necessarily there's a huge amount of space in your spinal modem to store a ton of data. Because like Crypsis has to be on a bigger system than a pad. And the first one they mention is the spinal modem. And there's some other interesting cybernetics things that I would like. I liked playing Cyber Samurais with Shadowrun, and of course 2020 was all about cybernetics because it was Chrome and Flash and that kind of thing. Yeah. But
I have to say, I have to say, just setting up the server as like I've had 2020 in my mind. It's like, oh my God, this is like playing, but easy and non-stressful, and it's but just setting up the server, I was having flashbacks to the little grids with the flowcharts and the little diamonds and the little thingies.
Yeah.
So it's like
they were way more complex system maps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Shadowrun, it was just. There were just so many steps you had to take in that system that made making a net run that much more challenging and time consuming.
Yeah, I got intimidated. I'm playing in a Shadowrun game. It was supposed to be today, but a friend had a business trip, so we canceled it for this week. It's on next week. And when I was doing the character, it's like, oh my God, I don't even want to look at that chapter. It looks way too complex. So I was like, no, I'll just cybernetics and I'll be like an infiltration specialist. And we actually hand wave the net running in our game. We have an NPC net runner, and they take care of that. It's like, you open the doors, and the doors open, or no, somebody rolls for her. But the GM just tells us, roll, I don't know, X amount of dice and tell me what you get. And it's like, okay, we got this. Okay, you open the door. Okay, cool.
That's probably, for that system, the easiest way to go about it, because as a player character, it was an utter nightmare to play the last edition, fifth edition.
But I mean, look at the system that we played tonight. It wasn't terribly complicated. I think what I tried to do is give you a little bit of choice, right? So I tried to provide enough options here, and I think I was successful in that. I had the little fake out with the high secure data. We had the cameras. I could have pushed harder. I didn't, because I wanted to leave a little bit of time to discuss after the game. But I could have asked you like halfway through the run, wait a minute, get the lights, or we need the security door open, or and force you to go back and do extra things. So I could have prolonged this thing. But my point is, it seems to be like a setup like similar to this, which is not too dissimilar from the example system in the book that's also on the website page.
Their
example
article
one. The Haas server,
Spyroid server.
Yeah. So it's not too dissimilar from this, and I don't think. Like, I could have run the breach portion of the game with the rest of the guys, right? And it wouldn't have felt way too disruptive. Like, I think it's a turn for you, and back to Brian, and a turn for you, and a turn for you, and back to Brian. So,
the beautiful thing is that you have that, like the starship travel. It's this, here's the net running. Is your starship travel. It's this elasticity of time, because that run, technically, if I was doing that on my own, like, toying around and hacking a system, that run would maybe have been 3, 4, 5 seconds of actual real time.
Yeah.
So it's really, you could easily, the challenge would be to try and be on site running shallow and hacking at the same time.
And I would think that would be interesting too. And I would,
Yeah.
The plasticity of time is also interesting. And I always kind of picture, they have their icebreaker, but maybe they're modifying the code on the fly, right? Like, wait a minute. And so they're interacting with it. It's not just run the program and sit and wait for it. I'm always visualizing,
and that's what,
they're modifying the program. Okay, the Crypsis is not working. Let me readjust a couple of lines of code and, whatever.
Well, what is it? Is it Yog?
Yog.
Yog 0.0. The one that's, Yog 0.0. I think that's the one where it's a strength 1. While it's active after making a break ice check, the runner may spend 3 advantages or 1 triumph to override the target code gate, even if the override strength does not exceed the program strength. So I mean, it's like a Hail Mary, and that's one of those where you have to be an advanced programmer, because you got to depend on getting those 3 advantages or at least 1 triumph. Flip the story point. Do something to ensure that you get that kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of room to grow, and to be creative with hacking in this, because like custom code, it's one of the talents you take. You get, and I totally didn't even do that. I should have did that. I forgot about my talent.
What does it do?
Custom code. Okay, so custom code.
Yeah.
Chosen code gains 1 advantage.
Oh.
And what was my chosen code? What did I choose as my chosen code? Yeah, Crypsis, of course. That was the one that was my chosen code.
Oh, that's interesting. But it gives you the advantage. It just gives it to you. It's not roll a boost. It's here's the advantage. That's pretty cool.
But the other thing about it too is that it's not a ranked trait. You can only take that trait once. So you only get 1 code to be good at.
That seems fair.
And that's why it would be kind of interesting to say, like if there's I guess you could use science, like science program or knowledge programming, maybe,
to make
if you wanted to like have a guy create his own code potentially, like down the road, to say, I want to try and achieve a code that has this type of effect when it faces a barrier, like say a wormhole. It doesn't cause because like none of them do this. I don't disable or trip the ice. What I do is I cut a hole in it that I can pass through. So instead of just being a backdoor, like we have the backdoor coming into the system, I wormhole my way through this barrier to get on the other side of it. Now the problem with that is that maybe, okay, as part of the maneuver, you have to spend time on the other side of the barrier, because like Crypsis, okay, where you have to spend the maneuver recovering the code. So you have to spend a maneuver on the other side of the barrier to maintain the code that keeps the wormhole open. So it's good. Like it's a way to, kind of be stealthy within the system. Instead of disabling or dismantling or destroying, you're just kind of like worming your way around circumventing the system without tripping an alarm.
I'm sure the heart of that probably lies within the gear modding section of the game. Like you could start with a piece of icebreaker that's already exists and then mod that like through the equipment modification rules. So it's probably in there in the gear rules, which that's the one part of the game that in every iteration I just go like, and they play with the gear. Yeah, this is the magic item section. I don't care. Just I'm fine with the rest of the game. I don't need magic items.
So that would be, I mean, if I was to continue playing Naira, then that would be one of the things that I would start working on. Like, okay, what are you doing in your downtime? I'm freaking coding, man. Because one of her strengths is that she's adaptable. So if this is the code available on the market, I don't want to be using what everybody else uses. I need to start, making my own code.
But to me, this is the genre where the gear and the modding and the thing lies near the heart of it, right? As opposed
true.
to my interpretation of Star Wars, which is, different for me. Star Wars is pulpy and run and jump on the ship and run out and shoot, and who cares about gear? It's like, but this is a genre. I mean, where you would tinker with the thing and have it ready to go and make your own custom ice and make your own custom rig and break the rig and make it bigger or modify it. That would be the genre. I can imagine this hacker who sits at home and takes apart the computer and starts putting in pieces and hot wiring it and doing, I don't know, buying different pieces and Frankensteining something together, right? This would be the genre, at least in my mind. So, yeah.
Well, and the cool thing about the custom rig, now the custom rig talent kind of represents that because it is a ranked talent.
Oh, that's
and
true.
every time you buy it, so the first time you buy it, you get 1 skill bumped. Then the second time you buy it, you get 2. The third time you buy it, you get 3. The fourth time you buy it, so eventually you wind up having all of your knowledge skills, all of your intellect skills magnified by the fact that you're because you are constantly hooked to the net.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I took all those ice barriers, was to kind of like have something to say, okay, if I'm going to be, I don't want any way to expose myself. And, there again, that's another opportunity to create some kind of stealth, be sinless, as they would say in Shadowrun. You can't find my track number, my sin number.
Yeah. That's really
but yeah,
cool.
I mean, I appreciate you going through and setting it up.
That's great. Let me go ahead and stop the recording. We can talk a little bit more. So
yeah,
because
I just the whole thing.
Well, we've learned that if after we play our games, after our sessions, then we start talking. That's the best part of like the best discussion happens right there. So anyway,
that's like even in the meat space, that was one of the things that like I think it was about 2012. No, it was about 2013 when I started running Pathfinder in St. Louis, where the first 10 minutes of the session was the review and the warm up and say, here's our starting point. And the last 15 minutes of the session was, okay, do you guys, if there's no obvious direction we're heading, where are you guys planning on going?
Yeah.
Because that way I'm not getting blindsided when we show up on the next session thinking, oh, they're going to go do this. And, plus it's a good time for everybody just to kind of talk about the session like you guys are saying and maybe just have random ideas pop up.
Okay, so thank you, anyone, if you're listening, and in case I post this up at some point, assuming the audio is not corrupted, but this was a lot of fun, and thank you, Brian. And let me
You're
just
welcome.
stop the recording right here.